Okay. So one day I'll do like professional videos, I swear, and they'll be like editing, and this will be really worked out. But until that time, that I just gotta lean in, like full shoulder, off the cuff, turn the camera on, start talking. So what am I talking about right now? What's this video about? Another day, another Rashod Bateman's volume's gonna be terrible tweet, I guess. Yeah, let's do that. So yeah, this time, not this time, like it's every day, everyone. But Kevin O'Brien, someone I have immense respect for because I deeply love him. The FF engineer, formerly known as, he used to do one of the best podcasts in the world ever for fantasy football. Now he doesn't, but he's threatening to come back, which means most of us will be, you won't need to listen to any of us. He's awesome. So definitely checking him out. Pointing out that the offensive coordinator's consistency in low passing volume at Baltimore is also incredibly consistent and never reaches 500 attempts. And he even gave, even if the would it be irhistorical, right? I'm trying to say like irregardless, but historical, irhistorical. That's not the word. Anti-historical. Unlikely event that they get to 500 passing attempts next year because Bateman's just so good, and he really is. He would still need 25% of the team's offense to get less than 100 receptions, given a pretty good reception percentage and a pretty good accuracy from Lamar Jackson. Because apparently I learned Kevin goes through quarterback to get to volume predictions, and I think that's interesting, but you don't, so let's move on. So I just did a podcast. Check it out. Dynasty Crossroads. Anytime you want. It's free too. Where I went through my rookie board. Now, my rookie board looks like this. Patrons know it well. Probably not. But it's there, and it's something they have access to. And I really use my rookie board of how I like players. If I have every pick, I don't have to worry as much about ADP or who's going to snipe or where I have to draft players. So this is kind of not the order I would draft them in, but how much I like them. Why is that different than ranks, you ask? Well, we'll get into that, because I went through the draft board on the podcast the first 2 rounds, and I'm still playing around with it. I haven't looked in my post-draft ranks yet, and I know that's bad of me because rookie drafts are going on, but anyway, and that's what I was going through. But then, once again, Kevin, the new guy, the latest guy, to point out my hopes and dreams should not exist. Thanks, Kevin. For Rashod Bateman and Taylor Wallace. Don't forget Taylor Wallace is on the back end of that depth chart too. And also I'm a pretty big fan of Marcus Brown. Anyway, go Lamar Jackson. Go Ravens. It got me thinking about the difference between my rookie board and my ranks again, because I really do try and do a decent job telling people what you should probably know. Make up your own minds. Never take my opinion, but here's what you should probably have it as, and then make up your own minds. Always. But my rookie board's not that. This is me making up my own mind, right? And so ranks are really meant to be that other thing. Like I'm saying, this is, I think, the most reasonable way to go about it, given everything. Not me, but me in relation to ADP. So essentially the order in which I would draft them, right? And that's much more true when you go into ranks. But I was looking at my rank receipts because I love pain. I really hate myself, and I enjoy this kind of... I find it... I have found it useful to be able to go back into the past, and unfortunately, just because of the way, I've got a million sheets, I've only got ranks going back to 2019, pre- and post-draft, even though I've been doing it a couple of years before that. And so it's just memory. And the thing about memory is we want to forget pain, which is why I spend so long trying to remember it, or so much effort trying to remember it, because I did not remember. And I remember at the time, like, avidly pointing out, I have Isabella above Metcalf and Whiteside. Like, DK Metcalf is down this low to troll Jake, because at the time he was on the podcast. But boy, does that sound like just a made-up excuse now. I really wish I'd been into making notes at the time. That would have been fun. This year, I've gotten into making notes pre- and post-draft, where I've got a Patreon now, and they all look at it and ask me questions. I like to fill in my basic thoughts, where I'm at, and I add to them as I go. I wish I'd been doing that when it was just me. I'm my lonely self. Because I really like that not to sound like just an excuse. But here's the thing. I'm built different. No, I can't pretend that it's a good, like, I know I'm meant to, like, this is the way you should be. It shouldn't. This is just me, and one-to-one, me, you. I may approach rookie drafts badly, but I approach them the way I approach them, and you should know that. If you ever take on any of my videos or opinions or thoughts, not the database is free, it's you to do whatever you want with, but yeah, my opinions on it, you should probably know where I'm coming from. I'm fine taking Bateman, like top 5 wide receivers in this class. I've taken him once so far. I've only done 2 rookie drafts, and I took him at the end of the first round in a Superflex draft. And so that's in Superflex, that's actually pretty high. That's putting him in top 5 wide receivers. For me, it was a choice between Elijah Moore and Bateman, and I wanted both, and I thought Elijah Moore would fall to me because I had the 202 as well, and he didn't, because Gabe Geering of the Open Bar podcast he hates me, but also he's very good, and he took Elijah Moore, and it hurts. But here's the thing. That's really high for Bateman. I can admit that, even though it's the end of the round pick, but everything's relative. And the reason I'm willing to take him inside the top 5, but at the bottom end of that top 5, the other wide receivers are gone. Smith, Rondo Moore had already gone. Chase, obviously, definitely gone. So it's towards the back end of that 5, and you get into this interesting crux where if you're doing it right, mostly in Dynasty and fantasy football, you want upside. Like getting floor, like it's not it. But the way I think about rookie drafts, just so you know where I'm coming from, this is the right way. I think in the top 5 picks, top 5 wide receivers this year in your draft, in anyone's draft, in the average draft, there's one guy who has like the upside we're searching for, and I think that's Jamar Chase. And because I think about it that way, that frees me up to think, well, who else is worth drafting here? And so that's not floor, I'm drafting Rashod Bateman fully expecting I'm getting a Marcus Brown level fantasy hit. Like I don't think I get AJ Brown in Tennessee, which is the low volume comparison we can make. I think I'm getting Marcus Brown again, and I was fine doing that at the time, which led me back to my ranks over here, and you see I had Marcus Brown 6. Going post-draft, and this is what led to this video, I was like, this is kind of interesting, so maybe, terrible, and so you should know. Post-draft, I had him 7, I had Calvin Harmon way above him. Me and Jesse Reeves, who's actually a gamer now, clap CLVP back. He plays games on Twitch. You should check him out and support him. I hear he's big on Twitch. Twitch? No, that's where he streams. He's big there too, but also big on TikTok, because apparently gamers do TikTok a lot more. He's very excited about his TikToks. I don't know. But me and him really went back and forward over Harmon. We both really liked his profile, and he fell tremendously in the draft and fell out. And so that's why Brown gets a bump, essentially. Notice everyone else remained remarkably stable, because pretty much all these players got decent draft capital to okay landing spots. So, why am I going through that? Because when I was looking at having Isabella above Metcalf, for example, I do remember that's a troll, but, I didn't write it down, so I just have to kind of own it at this point. And so Isabella and Whiteside both had good production. DK Metcalf maybe had good production. He had a breakout age. He went over the 20% threshold. Just in case you're not familiar with the stats, I'll do it quick. But it was only in this one season, and AJ Brown had done more. And I had him ranked second in this class. And N'Keal Harry is a guy that I was trading up to get, which clearly was not the move in 2019. So I actually hated 2019. I did really great in 2018 with rookies, really great in 2020. And just in case you missed my 2019, I spent that whole off season just tilting my face off. I've never got so much right. No, I'm not going to flex, but I get a lot right about rookies, okay, in general. But so much right and get none of the benefit. Because I wanted AJ Brown. I liked him a lot. But N'Keal Harry, man, that's the guy I went and got. And you know what happened there already. JJ Sega-Whiteside I took as a falling value because he was falling to the end of the first round. So you already see my ranks here aren't really reflecting ADP enough. Andy Isabella was also a second-round pick, so I was, again, drafting DK Metcalf higher if he fell to me, but I was using it as a if he falls to me kind of a thing. And I learned a lot from this class because so much went wrong, in the same way that I learned a lot about when things go wrong is when I learn the most, I personally feel. And And I ended up with a lot of Marcus Brown because he was a first-round wide receiver no one wanted because he went to Baltimore and was an outside receiver, and so efficiency and everything else. And I just thought he was really productive in college. His actual production, if you go look at my models and database and stuff, came out really well. I just thought, yeah, he was more of an outside receiver, didn't come with that volume wide receiver skill set that I typically target and still typically target in fantasy, and I thought N'Keal Harry had that. And then after that, it was easy to insert like the AJ Brown and DK Metcalf, who had positives but had limited time, but then Jake was telling me they were much better on tape as well, and so I adjusted and pushed them above Brown, and I was just kind of trolling for who the second round wide receiver that's going to break out and surprise everybody with Andy Isabella. I was kind of seeking that, and JJ Arcega-Whiteside was then, I said, and is now still touchdown dependent. He's kind of a Terrence Marshall corollary. Not that I'm comparing the players, but like even if you accept that he's like double up his production or whatever for his last year, Terrence Marshall's got a touchdown problem. Like that's his most positive stat. Outside of 3 games in his entire career where he got decent yardage, he's got a touchdown problem that last year, and that. Don't just JJ Arcega-Whiteside, but I've noticed a lot of players with good production numbers and an over-dependence on touchdowns, and you might have seen it in some of my rookie videos. I just have a kind of, I don't know about that. I can't find signal to suggest we should fade it or downgrade players based on it, so it's not included in any of my models, but it's just a thing I constantly see. Like, players with high touchdown potential tend to get drafted, and miss more often than if it's more yardage based, and that fits with what I know of the NFL production as well. And so I don't know, it's just a note I throw out occasionally. I also think touchdowns have the tendency to, they're exciting, and so you like the player more, and that might lead to more draft capital, might lead to better reviews, and I think it might be a part of the selection bias in all of our processes as well, but that's just idle speculation there. But anyway, I ended up with a lot of JJ Arcega-Whiteside because he was falling to the end of the first, but I kind of like his production despite that touchdown. He had it in yards too, and he was drafted to the Eagles with decent draft capital, and so I ended up with a lot of him, and that was a mistake as well. So you can see how 2019 entirely didn't work out for me, even though I knew DK Metcalf and AJ Brown were good. I adjusted for this partly. One of the adjustments I made was in 2020, I made sure to go out and get T. Higgins. Now that might seem like a weird adjustment, because T. Higgins and AJ Brown, like, that's not the same thing. True, but he fit for the way I prospect it did. He's a player who looked good, and I could see it, and I believed it where it wasn't, because of, context and taking in film evaluations as well. But he fell in this weird place in my ranks, like AJ Brown and DK Metcalf did, where I wasn't ending up for him. I wasn't trading up to get him because I wanted the guy above him, which in this case was a mistake, N'Keal Harry, or I was letting Marcus Brown or JJ Arcega-Whiteside fall to me, and so I was never really, oh shit, now it's going to have an editing note, no one's going to ever believe me. Anyway, I was never really getting them. And so 2019 sucked in that way. I had a fine fantasy year, but that sucked for me. And my bus, as always, jury's still out on Paris Campbell, but I still think I'm right. Deebo Samuel, I've got, right there. I'm actually pretty happy with that. I didn't even know I did reasonably well with Deebo Samuel in terms of a rookie rank. Hakeem Butler is there purely because of hype. He was literally listed as the best wide receiver in the world ever. Literally, by some people, and it was not there, but I put him there because other opinions matter, I guess, and then he fell in the draft, but still athletic upside, and those relatively few players I liked. Deontay Johnson I just completely whiffed on. I probably owe a what did I miss video on both Isabella and Deontay Johnson, actually. And Kelvin Harmon, as you can see, fell drastically. Now, why am I going through any of this when talking about Rashod Bateman? Because I don't know, it's the thought process I was running through when once again Bateman got brought up. Because when I look at 2020, and I'm working on my ranks right now, I'm making extra notes so that no one can say I didn't like him or like to play him more than I did. Like, I'm going to write it down now. Like, that's not just a ranking list, like ranty little notes at the side with things like, I know, what kind of wisdom do I have in here? None of it's good. Feels weird, man. Okay, great note, Pete. Betting against an early breakout doesn't feel good. Okay, yeah, real insightful stuff. Definitely worth $1 to get it behind that paywall. My ranks might not be, but the Discord legitimately is. You get behind that paywall once, cancel it, you get a Discord link. I mentioned making that public. Like, let's just go public. Everyone can come in here, and and those that talk the most in there were like, I kind of like it being our own thing. Someone can't pay $1 to come do nerd research with us and ask questions about how to, and here's a sheet I've got, then maybe they're not our type, and I guess. And honestly, I love the Discord right now, and always. Well, I've only had it right now. I don't know why I'm talking about the Discord, other than I was having that conversation with them today, and I was like, maybe I should just mention it more. Discord's a cool place. Like, the $1's worth it just to hook up with those guys and girls. But, where was I? Yeah, I was talking about these ranks on the Discord as well, and something I've been trying to figure out is, like, these seem like reasonable ranks. Like, my ranks now, I'm much more concentrated on showing where I think the best ranking to give someone is. Instead of, in 2019, I was very much still, these are how much I like them, and now I've got a rookie board for that. I don't track because I can only track so many things, I guess, and hopefully the notes will keep up with that. Like the Rondo Moore and Rashod Bateman is just like the Rashod Bateman thing is getting pretty hefty at this point. Look at all those misspelt notes. Wonderful. And it's mostly me saying, I like him more than I can rank him, but I still don't know where I can rank him, because I think this is fair. Jamar Chase just separate kind of tier, okay? He's in tier 1 and no one else is. Like, Jamar Chase is a target. I think he's the hit in these top 5, and if he's N'Keal Harry, he's not. But if he's N'Keal Harry, then I'm willing to own that. I'm fine with having got N'Keal Harry, okay? It was just getting everything else wrong that sucked. And again, adjusted to that, and I made sure to go out and get T. Higgins and that's the adjustment. I realized I got off point. And what I learned from 2019, I applied in 2020. So I actually got the wide receivers pretty right in 2020. But T. Higgins was falling into this range where I was either getting a value later, or I was trading up to get someone else, Justin Jefferson or Jalen Reagor or CeeDee Lamb above him. And so I actually made an effort to go out and get some T. Higgins because he was falling. I liked him. I believed in the production, but he was just falling into these weird crooks. And that's a lesson I learned from 2019. If I like a player, but I don't get the right draft pick, I should probably go out my way to get a draft pick to have him. Because believe your takes or don't, but don't play it halfway, So anyway, that's one adjustment I learned from 2019. The other one is looking at these ranks. I think this is fair. This is probably how I quote unquote should have them. Jamar Chase, he's the guy I believe we're looking for. Like droids, I guess. Wait, Star Wars reference? No. Anyway, I think Javonte Smith, statistically, probabilistically, looking at hit rates and his production, and I wrote, notes saying some of this out, I think he's the next most likely to have that upside, but strongly distantly removed from Chase's. And I think he's got a decent floor too. I personally am probably aiming for Jalen Reagor still in Philadelphia, but that's because I'm willing to take a sucker's bet now and again just because I'm me, okay? But I think, and I believe I've just wrote that down in the notes, I think my job is to tell you not to make that sucker's bet, but I also feel compelled to tell you I will make the Jalen Reagor sucker's bet, because I did for N'Keal Harry that second year too. I bought, even though 94% of the time, if they fall in ADP by a round after that first year, they bust out. Sometimes I'll just take that sucker's bet, and I did with N'Keal Harry, and I'm darn tootin' willing to do it for Jalen Reagor again. That's just where I'm at. But where was I? Devontae Smith is much more likely, or unless it doesn't have that large negative on his profile, to have that level of any fantasy upside. And in this class, statistically, I think he's the next most likely once you take everything into account. So he's 2, right? Jaylen Waddle should come in 3, I think, because basically I have to say I'm blind to his likelihood. He didn't play enough in college. There are some significant high notes there, especially in terms of yards per team attempt. He gets to 3 yards per team pass attempt at one point, which is a really high mark. Like, that's interesting. That's something Terrence Marshall never does, for example. Ever. Even if you per game pace truncate the season, he doesn't get to that mark. It's a really interesting one. So I can kind of see that he did something good. But he didn't play enough. I don't know. His athleticism's there, his draft capital's there, and there are enough the guys and girls I ask about the tape are kind of 50-50 on them. Limited or incredibly dynamic. And they both kind of fit together they're saying the same thing, but one group believe that he can put it all together, and one group is like maybe Cordero Patterson. So that's a strong divide. So I think he has that upside, but statistically I can't see it. So I think 3 is a fair ranking for him. Next is Rondo Moore. He got draft capital, a landing spot without volume problems. That first year in 2018, when he was 18 years old, was just amazing. Does profile more as a middle-of-the-field guy. There is some comparison to like Calvin Ridley, because Rondo Moore's getting drafted behind DeAndre Hopkins, who ain't going nowhere, and Rondo Moore ain't shifting DeAndre points for you Hopkins, okay? He's just not. But I said the same thing about Calvin Ridley, despite liking his last few productive years, well, all of the years, but he just played at a later age. It's called the Calvin Ridley rule now, actually. Or that's what I refer to it as. But I think it's fair to see that Moore's got a slightly lower ceiling, because Calvin Ridley didn't play a limited role in college. He played outside plenty, and no one was really worried about that. It's more size Twitter, and size Twitter sucks. Don't listen to him. So, like, even though DeAndre Hopkins there, even though Julio's there, they're still good players, but I do think it's fair to say that Moore probably has less of a ceiling than Ridley did, so it doesn't make an even comparison, but it's one that occurred to me, and so I wrote about that in there too. So I don't think he has a potential ceiling of Smith or Chase, but I think he's as likely to hit the floor as Smith, or Chase for that matter. I think he's going to a good offense, plenty of volume, powerful offense, considering what they're putting together lately, if they can keep it rolling. And so, yeah, I think 4 would be a really fair rank for Moore, putting him in the same tier as Jaylen Waddle and Smith as a second tier. You notice these are temporary ranks while I explain what I think is fair to you, because my tiers don't match up. Next is Elijah Moore. If there's a second-round pick this year that's going to be the Stephon Diggs, T.Y. Hilton breakout, I think it's Elijah Moore. I don't do this player is like that player. He's not this year's Stephon Diggs or anything. I just mean in terms of value and possible upside. Like, there's really no problem in Elijah Moore's profile. I have to just emphasize this one last time. His problem is that everyone wants to talk about the other Moore, or they want to talk about Chase Smith. Like, no one really cares to talk about Elijah Moore, but there is no problem there. His production is phenomenal on a good team with DK Metcalf and AJ Brown on it, by the way. That first year when Elijah Moore was playing with age 18. He's coming from a great conference. He got draft capital. The problem now is he's on the Jets, so he goes below Moore. That's my reasoning. Like, I don't trust the Jets, and I think that's fair. I'm sorry, I just think that's fair. And then Bateman, because yes, likely flaw, but he is very much definitely, as far as I can see, he is a good player. Easily the equal, if not greater than all of these players, except maybe, I use the word maybe, Jamar Chase. So what does that mean? It means that it's a Marquez Brown bet. He's probably not going to do it. It's unrealistic to expect over 500 passing attempts from that offense. Okay, those would be reasonable ranks. I never promised you I'd be reasonable. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. Like, I was trying to do this, and I was writing notes to the effect. And here's the thing: I'm okay looking back at 2019 and going, well, that looks stupid. Like, I get why I'm a moron over here. Andy Isabella, that's crazy. I would not be okay looking at, like, I know I don't have many years here. Do we have 20, I guess, 2020? I would not be okay looking at this knowing that I pushed, what's a similar comparison, like a bad landing spot who eventually went off. I mean, Justin Jefferson, I guess, kind of, because he was wide receiver 2 for his team. That was honestly a conversation that we had to have, despite breaking all the thresholds. Like, not having him in my first tier because he's a slot, or because he was a 2 on his team. Like, I'm not okay with that. I don't like that. And looking at 2019, because, man, I wish I had more years in here. We will eventually, I guess. Like, I would not be okay. No, I can't say too many ifs. Like, if N'Keal Harry had been good, but I'd lowered him because New England, for example. And New England was a very treacherous landing spot and has worked out to be, but I still think it's about the player. So I missed. It's that simple. But, like, I wasn't going to lower him because New England. I just wasn't. I'm okay with having him too high. I would not be okay with having him too low because New England, and then him actually being what I hoped he always could be. And I don't have any examples of that because it has happened, but I only have, the 3 years worth of ranks here, so, kind of screwed that way. So when I look at 2020, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, I'm okay having... this seems reasonable. Bateman at 6 is very reasonable. Putting him in a separate tier by himself as you're getting a good player with very unlikely higher fantasy upside. I'll put that all in the notes. Here's the thing. I can't have him... I do have to bring him down. Like, he was my 2. He was still my 2 when I started re-editing this. It's a little unreasonable to have him at 2 as ranks offered to other people for this is the order you should draft them in. Because I wouldn't. He's kind of tied for Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore is a second round pick, and I know that. So, yeah. Sure. Yeah. That maybe? I know, I'm still playing with my post-draft ranks, but I just want you all to know my thought process here. I'm trying to make my ranks the best order I can give you, or anyone, for the order you should draft players in. I really am. Like, ignore ADP here, pay attention to ADP there, by drafting them in the order of ADP or whatever. But, damn it, there are too many things I get right, but get wrong because they're not written down, and so a notes section. I guess that's this video. I just want to know, there is extreme unlikely upside with Bateman. A good player really can push volume. I've got to do more research into it, but I've seen a rookie wide receivers land increased by 100 passing attempts the year they're drafted, and they broke out year 1 or year 2. Coordinators and head coaches can extend their resume. And in fact, the reason I think Kevin's going through the OC is because the coach has had 600 and 675 passing attempt seasons in his history. It's Greg Roman that looks more consistently below 500, but I don't know. But it is very unreasonable to expect. It's like it would be extremely unlikely to happen. But that's my second favorite wide receiver in this class. He is. And Elijah Moore is close behind, followed by Rondo Moore, then Devontae Smith. Those would be my likings, and that's what's being reflected on my draft board. But rankings in terms of the order you should draft them in, because ADP exists, and you could get both instead of just one if you take them in the right order. But also, don't just take this guy because he's there, so we fade Terrence Marshall until he's at least in the second round, and we fade Tony despite his draft or I fade Tony despite his draft capital because I do not believe. And that's what I'm working on with the ranks. And we've done the rookie board. I'm gonna lay these in nice and thick and final, and the other positions are pretty much set. Actually, I'm really just fooling around with my wide receiver ranks a little bit more. Yeah, that's what it is. Despite the fact, I think it's really reasonable to have Jaylen Waddle up there. I just can't, okay? I gotta pull him down. And I have to admit, that's the player. Like, Jaylen Waddle's the player. The guy I can't see, and I know I can't see, but I can't bring myself to say, therefore we should draft him higher because there are signs that there's upside. Like, I just need to see it once. And I know once you've seen it in the NFL, it's already too late, but it's meant to be the benefit of rookies. It's meant to be able to show you something in college, and that's how Bateman rises right there. And Elijah Moore goes 5th because ADP. These guys are all going to be taken most of the time because of draft capital and the fact no one talks about Elijah Moore. Yeah, that's it. The only question here is, I think I'm fine having Smith at 2, even if Bateman is my 2. I've got it in the notes here, not enough. That's probably very close to where I'm finishing my ranks. Anyway, I shouldn't be doing this live. I just kind of want to talk through, I know Bateman's a bad bet for upside, but we probably have 3 players with multiple top 24 seasons in this class. 3, and that's a low bar for fantasy relevance. Multiple top 24 seasons we're used to thinking of as positive until you realize, Cole Beasley's made that list. It's actually a relatively low bar. There's one player with that level of upside that I can clearly see in the top 5 that are going to be drafted this year, and that's Chase. And if he's N'Keal Harry, like, I do not believe it. So I'll be wrong, and I'm fine with that. Outside of that, I'm okay just taking a good player that's probably not going to give me that upside, but I'm pretty sure at least he's Marcus Brown in terms of fantasy relevance. He ain't gone anywhere. He's caught to a large percentage of his team's offense. He's been good. He's been good for the team. I don't have to drop him. He's not on the waiver wire. And I don't know if that makes me weird or bad game theory, and I don't care. Because I think drafting as if any of these players could be the guy, like, I spend too long building my opinion of how likely these players are to compare to past players. I believe it. I'm buying what I sell for free, which is that I truly believe that Rashod Bateman is the second best wide receiver in this class. Whether he's going to be the second best fantasy wide receiver, I admit, probably unlikely at this point. But yeah, I can't just. But Jaylen Waddle could be the guy, and I can't see. I know what I know, and I know that no player's done that. Michael Thomas maybe, but at least he played a full complement of games, and he was just weird. Tyreek Hill didn't play a lot of games, but he was undrafted. I mean, Jaylen Waddle is my guy. Even though I can fully say, if you like Jaylen Waddle, because you have your own process that includes watching the film, like you should. I want to write down right here. You should. But I won't. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's a video, right? Yeah. What ranks are is confusing and interesting, but I want you to know that that's what I'm trying to do with my ranks. And I just thought it was interesting. I'm okay, like, he's not going to be A.J. Brown, no, but I tell you what, this is the way I said it to Kevin, or something like what I said to Kevin. Like, I'm okay taking Marcus Brown over Paris Campbell, Hakeem Butler, and all the other could have higher upside because of landing spot and physical metrics. Because those are the we don't have an A.J. Brown and a DK Metcalf in this class. That's not the conversation. It's, do you take Paris Campbell and Hakeem Butler above Marcus Brown because team passing attempts? And my answer is no. Like, I'm not taking worse players in better situations just because I'm only shooting for upside. I just take the player that I think's actually good, and I'm okay not giving that I'm not chasing a fantasy season. And if that's weird and not the way I should play it, I guess I'll live with that. I'm not taking fucking Hakeem Butler above Marcus Brown, and I'm fine with that. I shouldn't have had J.J. Arcega-Whiteside up that high. I'm not making that mistake again either. So, hence we work the ranks. I guess. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know what you would rather see in ranks. Is that what you think ranks are doing? Should I do something else? What are your ranks? Where do you have Bateman? Is it okay to shoot for? He's going to be good, even if not fantasy relevant, because why does that matter? I guess because at least he still has some value, whereas players that are not at least good in the NFL get dropped to the waiver wire and they're just wasted capital. I guess that's a positive. But anyway, those are my latest Bateman thoughts. Let me know yours. Thanks very much. Bye. Yeah, bye.